Hi there, thanks for watching. I am Sarah, and today we are going to talk about how to make soul-aligned choices. How to know the difference between what your spirit wants and what your mind wants. We are going to talk about exactly what to do when you feel confused and you have this internal tug of war between your mind and your heart and what you know you should be doing, and yet sometimes there's all of these perceived limitations and you're feeling like you just don't know what to do. So hi, I am Sarah. I am a traditional Usui Reiki master teacher, a holistic life coach, and a yoga teacher. I have been practicing for 20 years. I've been teaching for 10. And before we get started, I want to remind you this Friday, we are hosting a special event. It's called Day of Mindfulness. And it is going to be an amazing experience with all of my students gathered together, a wonderful group of women who we're going to get together. We're going to do some yoga, some meditation, some yoga nidra, and then we're going to really align and create our vision. I'm going to talk about how to create a vision board that actually works from a spiritual perspective, how healing, manifesting are one in the same, and how you want to be so fiercely focused on following your spirit and what you want to heal and moving away from light, moving away from fear and towards light and love, that you give the universe no choice but to support you and give you what you need to go on this magical journey. So that's Friday. But for today, let's get back to our topic. So why do we feel confused? I have to tell you, the main reason that we have this tug of war is because as a society, in the collective consciousness, we don't always have a point of reference to follow our spirits fearlessly. As a matter of fact, we often have the opposite point of reference where there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of need for proof and rationalization, that we always have to explain why, we have to justify our choices and our decisions, and they have to make sense, and they have to be prudent, and we have to be responsible. And we go through this whole experience of maybe being intuitively guided in a certain direction, and you have this deep urge to follow your heart, and yet it makes no sense. And you wonder, like, am I crazy? And then you go try and sort it out, and you go and talk to some people and just kind of double check yourself, and they just add more doubt to your doubt, and they begin to try and make a list of pros and cons, and all of this nonsense. That, yes, it has a place. I'm not saying that you blindly follow your impulses. There's a risk in not taking the time to just digest, evaluate, check in, trusting that, sometimes, because I'll tell you why, because a lot of the times our instincts are programmed to follow what's familiar, and what's familiar might be a little bit dysfunctional. And so because of this, it is wise to take a step back and double check that you are making the right decision, that it's truly aligned with your soul and with your spirit, and not acting just from an impulsive place or a place of fear. And so this is what happens, right? And the thing is, how do you know when it's your heart and when it's your mind talking? And the answer to that is very simple. Your body will tell you. So one of my favorite exercises to give a student when sometimes they can't decide is to sit in meditation and use your imagination, which is one of the functions of the mind, and say, okay, if I were to go in this path, how would that feel? And you can kind of feel it in your body. There's either a increase of energy and clarity and a joy, and you feel energized about whatever you're choosing to do, or there is a knot in your throat or a knot in your stomach or a fluttering in your heart and a little bit of like pullback of I don't know if that's the right direction. I don't think that would feel good. So one of the things that I want you to do when you're trying to make a decision is literally sit in meditation and envision and say, okay, if I were to follow this intuition, how would that feel like in my body? And pay attention to your energy and what your body's telling you. You will know. The problem is a lot of the times we don't really want to know, because at the end of the day, we already know. And we are then using our mind to kind of override what we know. And because of that, that's when the energy stops flowing and you begin to get physically ill, emotionally unstable, mentally unstable, because there is a conscious part of you that knows, but you're trying to override it with your mind. And then the body gets caught in the middle, and that's when energy stops flowing and illness begins. When you do that exercise, you will feel, oh, yes, it is very, very clear the direction that I need to be going into. But then you will also feel a little bit of a contraction, because a lot of the times that direction that you spiritually know is the right direction might be scary. It's probably your way to healing and probably outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of the times we take that little bit of fear and we use it as an excuse to stay stuck. And we think that that's intuition. And we hold ourselves back because we're thinking, oh, there's this fear, so that must be the wrong direction. My invitation today is to, what if you were to go a little bit deeper? What if you were to see and know the truth, and then also see the fear, and let the fear kind of just be in the backseat over there, aware. We don't dismiss it. We don't pretend that it's not there, but we take the driver's seat and we give ourselves permission to do what we already know in our hearts is the best thing for us to improve spiritually. And what happens is this: if you don't go through this process of really dissecting what feels right deep within and separating it from that fear, we stay confused, and then we make choices from a confused place. In yoga, this is called avidya, ignorance, or misperception. We think this is the right thing, but it's not, because our perception is not clear. And so when we make choices from a place of ignorance, a place of misperception, a place of fear, a place of avidya, those actions are bound to create more suffering. It's not personal, it's just the law of energy and the law of karma. But if you take a step back and you see the difference, okay, this is what I know in my body would feel so good. And then this is the fear that's in the way. And you're able to separate, and you don't override and rationalize and justify the wrong decision and the fear-based decision. And you go ahead and with courage, follow fearlessly what your soul is calling for. Now, even though it is difficult, and even though you might not understand, and even though it might seem insane to yourself and others, okay, because you're coming from a place of clarity, you stop creating suffering. So it is super important that you come to that place of clarity, because if you don't, you will continuously make the wrong choices and create more and more suffering for yourself. And this is why a teacher, a guide, a coach is so important, because a lot of the times we have blinders on and we only see what we want to see, and we only believe what we want to believe, and we stay stuck. And we need to give ourselves permission to open our eyes. But that's a scary thing. And so a lot of the times, I, as a teacher, one of the most powerful things that I help my students do is just shine the light and give them permission to own the clarity that they already know within, because maybe no one in the past has done this before. And they have learned to kind of just keep it down and not validate it and just pretend that it isn't there. And then sometimes working with a teacher who sees you like deeper than the regular, you know, humans out there who are asleep and not conscious see you, then you then can awaken. Because a lot of the times we are surrounded by people who are also asleep. And so even though we might wake up, we go and we get check in, and the people who are asleep are constantly saying, no, you're crazy. And then we begin to like believe it, and we shut our own light, down, because when we shine it, people get uncomfortable. Because you see, they see. And when they see the good, the bad, the ugly, and they don't want to see. So then they shut themselves down, and in that process, somehow you get shut down too, and you begin to question, and you begin to doubt, and you begin to wonder how crazy you are, right? So the opposite is true when you work with a community and a teacher who is awake, who sees what you see. Now, instead of doubting, the collective consciousness gets together, and now we all realize that this is the truth and this is the way, and we all have that certainty. And from that place of certainty and deep connection to spirit, you can go proceed fearlessly, because we're still tribal beings. We still need to have some sort of validation. The problem is, if you're surrounded by the wrong people, then you have the wrong kind of validation, right? You have the one that shuts you down. If you're surrounded by the right people, then that can be super empowering for you to then own your truth and step forward fearlessly. And the last thing that I want to cover today is, what do we do when we realize that we made the wrong choice? A lot of the times we know in our hearts that was the wrong thing to do, and I made a mistake. And I acted from a place of greed, a place of fear, a place of, wanting and craving. And now I'm stuck in this situation. And a lot of the times, because of pride, we stay there, even though we know in our hearts that this is not the best thing for us. And if you do that, now you're once again coming from a place of misperception and avidya, and you get stuck again and you create more suffering. But if you're able to have compassion and patience for yourself and say, okay, that was the wrong choice. Let me go back, and what can I do now to fix it? Without aversion, without shame, without ego, just humbleness of saying, hey, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I made these choices and took certain actions because at the time, that was my level of consciousness. I was in a place of fear. I literally didn't know any better. And now I do. And so I am going to go ahead, and it's going to be a little bit tougher, because you might have to go unweave some of the things that you wove yourself into. You see, as humans, we are always connected to everything that we get involved with energetically, people, places, things. And if we make the wrong choice and we go in a certain direction, we're weaving ourselves into that situation, into that relationship, into that experience. And in order to get out, we literally have to little by little unwind in order to set ourselves free. And sometimes in order to do that unwinding, you're gonna need a little bit more energy than you would have if you had just made the right choice in the first place, if you had trusted yourself in the first place. One of the things that I see often when students work with me is they jump from teacher to teacher, from studio to studio, from practice to practice, right? And then they come to work with me and the light shines and I'm a very stable and grounded and they feel very supported. And then they begin to see like more than they saw before. It might be scary, but it's the most wonderful and freeing thing on earth. And then they just learn to trust themselves. And oftentimes one of the things that they come to me and say is like, why didn't I do this earlier? And I hear you. I feel the same way because for 20 years, for a long time, not 20 years, I've been with the same teacher for about 12 years now. So, but before that, for the first 8 years, I spent thousands of dollars and hours worth of training and time practicing and practicing the wrong thing and not really going deep enough to get to the root cause of the problem. So I would get temporary relief from my yoga class, from my meditation practice, from my journaling. I would get temporary relief from this workshop and this retreat and that other thing. But then at the end of the day, I would still come to my life where the relationships weren't working, the job wasn't working, a lot of things were out of balance. And so even though I got some glimpses of what was possible, I wasn't able to sustain them because I was not grounded in one practice and one teacher that would help me to go through those layers of the self that needed to be healed. And so, was it the wrong choice? Well, here's the other thing. There's never really a wrong choice. So I'm talking about how when you make the wrong choice, you need to go back and just undo it. But sometimes that wrong choice that you made was there. It wasn't really wrong. It was there to teach you something. But guys, wrong choices and suffering are only necessary until wrong choices and suffering are no longer necessary. So I'm not saying, oh, it's okay, just keep making wrong choices. Like, I mean, you could, and you're still going to get to the same place. It's just going to take you a hell of a lot of energy and suffering. Or you can put in the work and the time and do what you need to do to empower yourself to go within and learn to trust and create a real practice with deep understanding and make those life choices that are really get you aligned to the right place, and making small choice after small choice from a place of clarity and not a place of fear, not a place of misperception. So it's really up to you. Eventually, eons and eons and millennia from now, yes, you might get it and you might get to the right place. But wouldn't it be nice to kind of just like take a little shortcut and save yourself a lot of trouble and wondering and just begin to follow your intuition here and now and trust yourself here and now? So if you are watching this and this is resonating with you and you're like, oh my goodness, this feels so good in my body, I would love to experience this. I would love to experience this clarity. I would love to feel supported. I would love to be surrounded by a community of women who are also going through the same thing. Be sure to join our day of mindfulness on Thursday, or if that's not in your schedule and you're not available that day, just book a call with me and let's chat. Let's see if this is the right path for you. Let's save you so much time and money and suffering trying the wrong thing, trying to get to the right place through all the wrong roads and the wrong choices. What if you were to just take a little bit of an eagle's view, get some clarity so that you can kind of just sail effortlessly without so much struggle and suffering anymore? That is what I do. That's what I'm here to do. Whenever you're ready, the door is open. Teacher opens the door, but the student must enter by themselves. Something my teacher used to say a lot, because, you know, you have to do your part. You have to want this for yourself more than I want it for you. I know what it's like to be in that place of clarity and love and fearlessness and excitement and live life fully every day, completely aligned with my soul, continuously doing that inner work and being in inner peace. I want that for you too, but you have to want it as well. And so that's my message for today. I hope it's helpful. I hope this live went through. If it didn't, I am going to see if I can take the video and post it again. But hopefully it did. Please comment below. Let me know if this resonated with you. If you're watching the replay, hit hashtag replay. I would love to just answer any questions that you might have and chat with you one of these days. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Namaste.